Friday Night Racing.
Ball.
Brought to you by Horse Racing Ireland. Love every racing moment. Visit hri.ie.
All right, you're very welcome along to this week's episode of Friday Night Racing, brought to you by Horse Racing Ireland. Share every racing moment. Visit hri.ie or follow Horse Racing Ireland on social media. Johnny Ward is with us as ever, somewhere on a beach in France, I believe. Johnny, it's a hard life.
It's a hard life, as Flann O'Brien might tell you. Greetings from Antibes.
Very nice. Well, you're almost as much of a jet setter as this week's special guest, Ado McGuinness. Ado, how are you?
I have to pay for it, though. Ado gets everything paid for by his horses.
I know. Definitely, I've been jet setting the last few months. Had a great time.
You're in sunny Dundalk today, I think.
Yeah, I'm down here now at the moment as I speak to you, so it ain't too sunny down here this evening.
It's a bit nippier here than it was in Dubai during the week. You were sweating, and I'm not sure if the sweat was from just how close the race was, or if it was just because it was hot out there as well.
I was very warm there the other night, but look, with all the excitement and jumping around, I even done a press conference there and the sweat was dripping off me now. It was very, very warm, but look, it was a night I'll never forget.
Well, I was going to say, because so frequently we talk to people in racing and they're like, look, you have to take the good times and the bad times because you know the bad times are coming and you can't get too high and you can't get too low. And sometimes I think you just have to get a little bit high because it is a life-changing, once-in-a-lifetime moment.
Yeah, look, it was just a fantastic night, and to describe it, it's hard to describe it. I thought it would never ever be Paris, but you know, it was just one of them nights. You're pinching yourself, the amount of money you're there for, you're running there for, and it's just unbelievable.
Can you take us back to the relationship with this horse, and we'll show some of the celebrations in a moment from the track itself. But when did you first when did you first get this horse, and when did you start plotting out what the horse could be, or beginning to understand where you could go with it?
Yeah, look, at this time last year, we bought the horse just before Christmas, 12 months ago, and he was sold to Hong Kong, and there was a problem with the vet, and then we got word of it, and we come in and we went down, we looked at the horse, and we got our vet in. It was actually the same vet that vetted him for Hong Kong, come in and vetted him, and he passed him. Just the Hong Kong vets didn't take him. They weren't happy with his x-rays and his knees, and we looked at him, and the knees were perfect, and we said we'd buy him, and we did. He wasn't a cheap horse. He was probably one of the most expensive horses I've ever bought, and we gave him a run in Dundalk then, and he was very impressive. Like, he beat two very good horses, Michael Brown's horse, Logo Hunter, and Jack Davison's horse, and like, he destroyed them that night in Dundalk, and he'd given them weight, and he looked very impressive, and everybody was telling me, oh, he's a Guineas horse, and we did dream of the Guineas, and we actually ran him in a Guineas trial, and he was very disappointing. I think he just ran too free and he wasn't right. And then we dropped him back at the trip again, and he won a Group 2 for us. And we headed to Ascot. Just hadn't got him right in Ascot. He had a little bit of a setback before Ascot, and we gave him a break after it. And, we entered him for the Flying Five in Champions Weekend, and lads thought I was stone mad dropping him back to 5. And I realised he had a lot of boot, and he's a real good cruiser, and we just haven't looked back since. He was second actually that night, and we supplemented him then for Paris because we hadn't got him entered for Paris.
Okay,
we haven't looked back since.
Go back a little bit. So, pardon my ignorance. How long is the Guineas?
The Guineas is a mile.
Okay, and so he's not a Guineas horse because he can't stay the mile. Is that what you're saying?
Didn't stay.
Okay.
He just didn't seem to stay that day in Leopardstown, and look at he was very free, and he just wasn't right, and we realised it, and we'd sort of given him a little break then after it. So it even the best trainers in the world, it's trial and error sometimes when a horse, if they have a 2-year-old that wins over 6 or 7 furlongs, they have to step him back up then to the Guineas, and some stay and some don't.
It's funny.
That race, that race, which is on actually tomorrow at Leopardstown, it's a great card tomorrow. It's effectively a Guineas trial. That's all well and good, right? So you sent that horse, that race, sent off, I think you sent off 94 favourite. How disappointing is a day like that? When you have a horse, you only have him not long. He's been very impressed on his first one. You've lost the dreams. When you come home from Leopardstown that day, how do you deal with disappointments like that?
Oh, listen, you're on the bottom, you're so disappointed, you're deflated, dream gone, where do we go? And you go and you check the horse out to see, can you find out what's wrong with him, and you're scratching your head and why did I do that? And you're calling yourself all names under the sun. I won't repeat them, but you're just completely deflated. And as I said, when I have horses that run bad, don't be in my company because I'm bad company. You can ask my wife and family that, you just really want to be on your own. And you just sort of go back to the drawing board then after the day or two and you sort of say, well, where do we go? And this is what we have to do. And look, we always try and find if there's a problem. And there was a bit of a problem that day too with him in Leopardstown. And, we just felt he'd so much speed, then he didn't settle, he didn't relax. And, you just have to go back to the drawing board then and hatch another plan.
And how quickly does the new plan formulate?
Yeah, look, we dropped him back in trip. Then I think about 6 weeks, 5 or 6 weeks after that, we dropped him back in trip. And yeah, about 6 weeks it was. And he goes and he rocks up and he wins and he beats him 2 other good horses that day. So
was that the Dundalk race? Sorry, is that?
No, this was in Naas.
Right.
In a Group 2, it was the Group 3 in Naas it was. And, he beat a good field of horses that day as well. And, the dream is alive again. Where do we go then? And so we were dreaming of Ascot, going to Ascot for the 3-year-old colts race on the Friday, and that's where we had it then.
Just to go back to the actual buying of the horse, when we got the Princess Zoe story, it's not a million miles away, where this is a horse who, for whatever reason, becomes available and there's a bit of doubt, and then they grow into these kind of superstars that, it can be absolutely transformative experience. Like in retrospect, is that one of the biggest breaks you're ever going to have in your career, or do you get lucky because you're actually involved and you're always listening for information that might lead you to be able to get a horse like a Case of You?
Yeah, look, he's a real rags to riches horse because the breeder couldn't sell him as a foal. He sold him as a yearling for $3,000. And the guy, John McConnell, bought him, and like I bought him off John. I gave John a good bit of money and he'd won a few quid for John as well. So if I had owned him, like John McConnell, and given $3,000 for him, and someone offered me substantial amount of money for him in 10, 12 months' time, I would have to sell him because it's just a good business decision. I'm privileged that I'm able to hold on to the horse now. And, we've had a few offers in for the horse, but, it's a horse like that you need. I've met so many people around the world when you run a horse like that all over the world.
Tell us about the owner,
Yeah, Gary, and he's a great man. He doesn't drink, but the guys that hang around with him make up for it. He's very cool. He's been very, very lucky. He's a very lucky owner with me, and I think you need to be lucky. He's been very lucky with me with a lot of the horses we've had together, and he really enjoys his racing, and this horse has taken him on a journey, and we're loving every minute of it. Like, as I said, he's a millionaire horse now.
It's mad, isn't it? Like, it is mad when that horse could easily have got on the plane or the boat or however they get to Hong Kong these days, and that would have been it, and it would never have been part of your life. But those sliding doors moments happen, and I think too, it's really interesting to the depth of understanding you have to have of what the talent that the horse has, that speed. Like, you're insistent it's there when you're entering him for the Flying Five. Like, was that a risk? Did it feel risky to you, or did it feel like actually what we're doing here is getting as much information as we can?
Yeah, look, we'd entered him in a 6 in Doncaster as well, and I was mad keen to stay at home and go for the Flying Five because it's a tough race. It's a stiff finish, and I knew this guy'd finish very strong, and we knew he'd improve again. He kept improving, and of course it's a risk. If you ran him in the Flying Five and he finishes tailed off, you're back to the drawing board again, and or if he was outpaced and he didn't lie up. And believe you me, he's like, the first time he ever ran over 5 furlongs was in a Group 1 and he finished second in it. So you can't turn around. He has to have a lot of natural ability, which he has. And he's really only learning to sprint.
Have you had anything like him before, Ado?
Nah, not like him. I've had some very good horses. We've sold some nice horses to America. We've had some solid 108, 109 horses, which are very good horses, 110 horses. But this is just something special. He's a rocket, and the way he finishes, very good sprinters, their last furlong is the fastest furlong. And this what this lad is, whereas if you've just a horse that barely stays 5, he might tread water in the last 50 yards or 60 yards. This lad is like a bullet.
It's funny,
quicker and quicker.
Yeah, my friend Adam Potts, he's a filly running tonight in the first set, Dundalk, 5 furlongs, and the talk from him before the race is that she's so quick, I'm not even sure she says 5 furlongs. So how do you train a horse like as fast as him, who's basically probably a lot faster than Anthony have at home?
Yeah, we don't, I train horses and with sprinters, you don't gallop the brains at him. I don't have to find out how fast this horse is. He's learning his trade. He learned his trade as he went on, and we get him fit. We do his bit of work, a few bits of work, and even when he does work, even last week on his preps, Ian Brennan was out in Dubai with him, and he done a great job with him. But his preps for Dubai was all on his own. We'd know how. I don't have to put a horse with him to find out how good he is. The odd day I might send a companion with him just to lead him for a while, but like all his fast work in Dubai there for the last 3-4 weeks, he done it all on his own. He just galloped on his own, and it's easy. You just get him fit. I get him fit, and then I know exactly where I want and what I want to do with him. And as I said, I don't want to see a horse like him. I don't take him off the bridle or anything like that. We just, we get a blowout into him, get a fitness blow into him, and that's all. And we just I knew he would improve after Super Saturday out there. I knew he'd improve again, which he did. He had a little bit of a setback going out in the plane, but he was fine. He hurt his tongue, and he went round in Dubai for 2 days with his tongue hanging out before he ran in Super Saturday. But we got him there, and the vets had looked at him, and he was fine to run after. But other than that, we never had a minute's trouble with him out there. And he's so much he's just so much natural ability. It's to be honest, it's nearly easier to train a horse like him than trying a low-grade handicapper not 65.
Absolutely. I've often said that I think Strava should be introduced to racing, because for cycling and running and all that, it gives you amazing data. Like even just people running their few kilometres a week, they can tell that they're improving or whatever, and they can tell their top speed. What's his top speed? How fast can this horse actually run?
Look, I would honestly say, I think I'd be very disappointed if this horse doesn't win us another Group 1 before the year's out. And, he the other day, to me, he put the race to bed very quickly. And there's no way they were catching him in the end. He won it cozy enough the other day. And he's another few pounds to improve to me, he's one of the best sprinters in the world, and I'm privileged to have him.
Yeah, I was talking to Ger before we came on, and he said, "Oh my God, he was 14-1, and he won the 10-11 favourite, Man of Promise. He won 10-11 favourite."
Yeah, he won. We were slagging because we were actually drawn beside one another the last day on Super Saturday, but Man of Promise was where KCU was, and we were where Man of Promise was, and it was the opposite way around this time. But where both horses were drawn, you couldn't say one had a better advantage. The rail is an advantage. The high draw over in Dubai is a big advantage. But we beat him fair and square the last day, and there was no crying about it.
Everybody should go and look at the race. Can you just explain that bit about the rail to us? Because the whole field lurches over towards the rail. Is that just an automatic thing, or is the course actually?
The course rides. It just rides that bit quicker that side. I don't know, is it because of the watering or not, but they seem to always tack across that side. Now, as it happened last Saturday, all the pace was on that side. So there was a lot of pace on that side, and there was a lot of good horses on that side. And, they were always going to go that way. And Ronan, in all fairness to him, he gave him a superb ride, because he never gave the rail away. He never gave, he held his posse the whole way, which was it wasn't a case where he was going to follow somebody. That's my spot, and there's no one else getting it. That's the way Ronan rode the horse the other day, and he was just fantastic on him.
So it's a good draw, because sometimes the outside draw, people complain about it, but actually...
over 5, straight 5 there, that side, it's a very good draw. And, you look down, it's like Cork and the 7. In Cork, you think there's no bias in Cork, and the high draws always seem to go to stand side in Cork. Why, I don't know, but if you look at the track, you'd say there's no advantage, but it's just the way the races pan out, and these seem to always go that side, and the high draws seem to be really very favourable in Cork and some tracks. I've often seen it in Naas as well.
You obviously had a lot of confidence then in the horse when the race was going. As the race unfolds, when does your confidence begin to kick into, this is going to happen?
Oh, look at it. If you see the replays when we saw him, the way he was holding his posse and the way he was coming in the last furlong, I think my voice is still not back to normality yet. And, you know, we got very vocal. My daughter was there, my wife was there. There was a good crowd of lads there, that friends and guys, but friends of Gary's as well. And we just, in the last half of furlong, we went completely bananas. And Ian Brennan sprinted the whole way down the straight, like when the horse, you know, when he was going by him, it was, I don't know if you've seen any of the footage of it, but a couple of television crews got him. One got him like from behind, and another crew got him coming at him, and you'd swear he was after committing murder and running away from the police. It was just flat out. He was roaring, and you know, just the expression on the chap's face just said it all. And even if you saw us in the parade ring the other night, we made plenty of noise. And as I said, Sheikh Mohammed mightn't have known who I was Saturday morning, but he certainly knew who we were Saturday evening after the race was over with the noise we made. And he was there in the ring as well. So look, it was just a wonderful night.
Well, look, we have a little bit of footage which you posted, in fairness to the Twitter account, which everybody should also follow as well. Have a look at this.
They follow about air the balls and things here. A case of you under the outside rail, banging contention. The painkillers of cancer breeders to the end of the field.
No sound on it, unfortunately, but yeah, so it's on your Twitter account. We'll tweet the link to it a little bit later on so everybody can have a look at it. It is sensational stuff. When that happens, like, and it's the culmination of the setbacks that you've had and the good fortune that you've had along the way, it does feel like you're kind of cresting to a moment in your career. I see one of your interviews, you said you're an overnight success after 20 years of hard work. That's exactly how it happens, though, isn't it? It's like a load and load of hard work, and you're actually ready for it when it comes.
Yeah, look at it when you come. You know, we can't do it. None of us can do something like this without the animals. And I suppose I'm privileged to have the animal. And it's not just him. I've had a great couple of years with good horses. We've got our hands on better horses. And, you know, previous to that, I'm driving up and down to Dundalk for years with low-grade handicappers and maybe one good horse. I've a yard of good horses now, and it's, you know, I'm privileged to have them, and I've better owners, and we've sourced better owners. And you know, it's not easy to do that. And, you know, we've got to make the most of it now and try and continue that. And I've met a lot of people out across the world there the last 6 or 7 months, and we've made, you know, we've done a little bit of business, and that's what life's all about, like trying to better yourself. And it's just the wealth of people that was there even last Saturday night was just unbelievable. So was that a conscious decision to go more global and think more global, and not just think that, like, you'd think of Ireland and England even when you're plotting your races? Because, you know, it's no... Yeah, well, look, we like, when you have a sprinter like this, there's only one Group 1 sprint in Ireland, and that's the Flying 5 in September. So the programme for a horse like him is not great. I know we ran him here in Dundalk in early or January there, just to get a pipe opener into him, you know, before we went to Dubai. And it was great that we were able to bring him down here and give him like, it was really like a piece of work to him. And it was no bad race either. There was only a few horses in it, but it wasn't a bad race. And you have to travel with a horse like him to get money. I could stay at home and run for 50 grand, you know, but like, the prize money is just colossal. And the guy won more money the other night in Dubai than I did for the whole of my grass season last year in Ireland. So, and I had the best season ever in Ireland last year. So that just goes to show you the amount of money that we've won on the Saturday night. So you have to, like, these opportunities, when you have a horse there capable of doing that, you have to take them. And the money, like, that's available, even Australia, we're looking at Australia at the minute, like, there's a sprint in Australia next November worth $4 million sterling to the winner. Like, it's 1.6 or 1.7 million to second, and 750,000 sterling to the third. Wow. That's the class of money that's available out in these countries. So when you have a horse that's capable of doing something like this, you have to go for it. Yeah, it sounds like that just makes perfect sense. That speed that you see, when did you know that the horse was going to be that fast when you were buying the horse, or did the horse actually even surprise you when you got it home and started to time it? Yeah, look, he wins over 6.5 furlongs as a 2-year-old. You'd always say he's going to go further and go to, I think he won his maiden over 7. So, and it was a stiff 6 that day up the Curragh and soft ground. And, you know, you'd always say, sure, he's going to go further. It could be a really nice Guineas horse and, you know, something like that. And as I said, the same thing. There's been so many trainers have horses with so much ability to win race like this, and then all of a sudden they drop them back and trip, and all of a sudden they're sprinters and away they go. And it's, it is trial and error sometimes, but I did feel he had so much natural speed, we had to drop him back.
And then the course of the season where you're because he was in the States as well, I think, right? And actually ran his fastest time up to that point in finishing 4th or 5th in that race. Is that right?
Yeah, I think he learned a hell of a lot that day in that was over in Santa Anita at the Breeders' Cup, with fabulous time over there. But he learned a lot, and I just said, if he goes back to the States again, this horse, he'd be an awful lot. He was just wasn't as sharp jumping out the gates as some of the American horses, but he finished very strong over there. The straight, like when you race 5 furlongs around the bend and you start way out the far side, the bend is, it's not much bigger than the Greyhound track here in Dundalk, to be honest with you. And there's such a short straight. It's only a little over a furlong and a half. So we knew the track wouldn't suit, but it was just an opportunity we couldn't miss. And look, we got 50,000, for being for going over there. And when we won in Paris, it was winning you're in. So the entry fees were paid. So we had to pay for the carriage and that over. But look at the experience he got over there. And our target will be either the Australian race or go back to the Breeders' Cup at the end of the year. That's where we really want to be again.
Well, it's not a bad fallback position if the Australian race doesn't happen. In terms of the sprinters, they do seem like it's like a completely different life that they have, because traditionally I think in Ireland we might have been focused on Derby horses, and that would have been always the blue ribbon, and that would have got all the hype. But it turns out the sprinters, the rest of the world, seem to have much more interest or much more focus on the sprinters. Is that fair?
Yeah, they have. England is big into sprinting, and their sprinters are usually a lot better than ours. You go to Australia, sprinting in Australia is massive. And, in Australia, I think last weekend there was 3 $1.2 million races in Australia just last weekend, an ordinary weekend of racing. The money in Australia is just colossal. The same in America. But America, they sprint around the bend. They don't sprint up the straight. So it's always around, it's around the bend. Whereas Australia is different. But it's... they're very big.